Welcome back, everyone, to the second week of coping skills. This module is called mindfulness. And whereas last week was all about kind of the basics of the cognitive triangle and giving you some behaviors that you can do to prep yourself for difficult mental health situations or prep yourself for those stressful life events, this week we're actually starting to put some things into practice. So this module is going to be kind of broken into two chunks. The first chunk is the theory. It's going to be talking about what mindfulness is, why it's important, what it does to your body. More or less me selling it to you that yes, this is something that you should be doing every day, and if not every day, at least when you find yourself in those difficult situations. Then the second chunk of this module is going to be just practices, just different mindfulness techniques that you can do on an everyday basis or in a stressful situation. So get ready and let's go learn some stuff. All right, mindfulness. Let's start with what mindfulness is. So a great definition that I like using is mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Now that sounds great. What does that actually mean? So we're going to take a few minutes and break this down a little bit. So paying attention. At any given time, there's all kinds of things fighting for your attention. Now, think about this. We have 5 kind of main senses, and they don't ever just stop working. They're sending stuff to your brain at any given time. All the things you see, smell, taste, feel, and hear. Those are happening all the time. And we kind of make sometimes a conscious and sometimes an unconscious decision to focus in on different things. A great example of how we kind of alter our focus from things from sense to sense is when you're driving in the car and you're looking for an address or looking for a place or it's really busy out and you turn down the radio. Now, if you think about it for a second, well, why does the sound affect your ability to drive and see things? Well, it's because that stimulus from your ear, the sound input, is taking focus away from the visual input. So we all the time are changing our focus from one thing to another. So that's the first part of mindfulness, because a lot of times the inputs that we're getting, we just ignore them. We're so used to them that we forget all about them. Like, how often are you aware that you're wearing clothes? Like that's an input that we're getting all the time, but we kind of blank it out because we're so used to it. So that's the first part, is paying attention, because so often our thoughts, our attention is focused on that mental health issue, that stressor, that anxiety, that depression. So that's the first part of being mindful. It's bringing attention back to the normal inputs, the normal senses that we're experiencing all the time but choose not to give any attention to. So the second part of this definition is on purpose, paying attention on purpose. So often our thoughts just kind of go out of control without us even really realizing it. Think about it. You've had that thought that can build into anxiety. So you're going to be late for work, and then your boss is going to yell at you, and then you're going to lose your job, and we steamroll so quickly. So a lot of times we don't really give any intentional thought to our thoughts. We just have them, right? So that's the other part of mindfulness, is we're paying attention to those inputs, those things around us, to our thoughts, our feelings, but we're making a deliberate choice to, yes, we're going to do it. So mindfulness is something that you have to make a choice. Yes, I'm going to be mindful right now. And that's the first key about trying to implement mindfulness throughout your day, is it doesn't have to be long, but you can implement it. You have to make the choice that I'm going to pay attention on purpose now, and even do it for a few seconds, a few minutes throughout the day. So the next part is in the present moment. So paying attention on perfect in the present moments, because so often our thoughts are not in the now, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but often our thoughts are either in the future or in the past, and those are breeding grounds for depression and anxiety. Over-analyzing things that you did in the past, make yourself feel guilty and shame for the way that you acted, or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. How do you prep? How do you prepare? Those are breeding grounds for negative mental health situations, of things like depression, anxiety. So we want to bring our thoughts to the now, and the best way to do that is paying attention on purpose to the things that are going on. So by focusing for a second on all the things you hear or smell or taste or feel or see, you're being mindful. You're being in the now, and that's a huge part of it. That's basically mindfulness in a nutshell, it's taking your attention away from the things in the future and away from the things in the past and your worries, your stressors, that bear in the corner, and you're just focusing on the now, not worrying about all the things. And then the final part of this is non-judgmentally. And this is something that's very difficult to overcome, because just like our stress response to the bear in the corner, judgment is something that is evolutionarily built into us for a good reason, but again, we've warped it. Society has kind of changed it into a way that now works against us. So we are constantly judging. We judge the people we see, we judge the thoughts that we have, and we judge ourselves. And it's very hard to turn it off. And judging in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but typically we judge negatively. And if we are living in a constant negative mindset, our thoughts are going to be negative, our feelings are going to be negative, and our behaviors in turn are going to be negative. So it's a difficult thing to do, but it's about not having an initial judgment. So when you are paying attention on purpose in the present moment, you're not saying if the sensations or the thoughts that you have or the smells that you have are good or bad, you're just experiencing them. You're just allowing them to happen without saying, oh, I shouldn't be having this thought right now, or I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why does my knee hurt? I probably hurt it last night when I was doing that. I shouldn't have been doing this. We usually judge ourselves so harshly, more harsh than we'd ever judge anybody else. So we got to stop judging our thoughts. So that's that definition of mindfulness in a nutshell. Paying attention, on purpose, in the moment, without judgment. So now that we have kind of a working definition of what mindfulness is, let's put it into use. Let's show what this actually looks like in the real world. So we're going to start with the bad example, what you shouldn't be doing. So imagine that you have your morning coffee, you have a sip, and you taste it, and it's gritty, it's bitter, it's not what you asked for whatsoever. And you think home that your wife or your husband or your significant other, oh my God, they got the wrong coffee again. How dare they? And they never do anything right. I don't even know why. My whole day is ruined because my coffee is this. And you're immediately in a sour mood. So something happened that was not to your liking, and you immediately allow yourself to go down a negative road of thinking. What you can do, and what mindfulness does, is you experience something. So you have a sip of your coffee, and you can be in this moment mindful. And you can say, that's not what I like. And rather than putting judgment on it and going down that negative route, you can just acknowledge, I don't like this, and think about the taste, and think about the grittiness in your mouth, and pay attention to that. Even though it's something unpleasant, as long as you're not going down that past of my wife didn't do this, my significant other didn't do that, and then or the future of when I get home, I'm gonna have to throw out that coffee that I dislike. Rather than going down those pathways of thinking, just experience the coffee. And this might sound ridiculous that, okay, you're doing mindfulness with coffee, but you need to start practicing with the little things. Trying to let those little situations go so that when a big situation happens, that you're practiced. Because again, this is something that you need to work on. And if you want to be successful, if you want this to change your mental health, you need to work on the little things first and then build to the bigger ones. So next time you have a coffee or a breakfast sandwich, eat anything, try to just experience it. Don't say it's good or bad, just experience. That's mindfulness, and that's what we're working towards.